We'll ask him again at the end of the meeting, or maybe
I couldn't
tomorrow.
help
Ask,
it.
ask him again. Okay, let me see. He said not on the other side. That belongs over here. Okay, let us get started. I want to welcome everyone here. Make sure that we got everybody. I've added a couple of co-hosts. Make sure that we have, if we're missing a couple people, sometimes Michael Bell comes over on the wrong side. Just if there are any other board members.
What's up, big Madam President?
Okay, good, good, good. All right, so we'll look for others. I think Judge Rabolo is over there still. Okay. Again, thank you for everyone for joining. We are going to get started. Let us start with self-introductions. Everyone, anyone, don't be shy.
Good afternoon. My name is Alona Holmes, and I'm a retired circuit judge, and I'm here representing the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Thank you.
I'm Colonel David Holmes. I am the Executive Director for the Broward County Sheriff's Office, overseeing the Department of Law Enforcement.
Good afternoon. I am Valerie Wanza, the Chief School Performance and Accountability Officer at Broward County Public Schools.
Good afternoon, Ella Phillips, DJJ Advisory Board.
Gordon Weeks, Public Defender's Office.
Roosevelt Walt.
Connections.
Good afternoon, Gloria Moscello with the Broward State Attorney's Office.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. John James with the Public Defender's Office.
Good afternoon, Johnny Sanders, DJJ Prevention.
Good afternoon, Judge Carlos Rabolo. I'm a circuit court judge. I sit in delinquency. I have been for the last 8 years. And I'm here on behalf of the judiciary.
Good afternoon, Travis Lagon, DJJ CAP Coordinator.
Okay. I don't remember if, or maybe you said it was someone else, Mr. Watkins. If you were introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon, David Watkins, Broward County Public Schools.
Thank you. Major, if you will, I think yours is garbled with someone else. If you'll repeat, please.
Major Victor London, Fort Lauderdale Police Department.
Thank you. Is that everyone? Thank you. Let us be reminded of our norms. Cell phones placed on silent or vibrate. raise your virtual hand when you wish to speak. Maximum 3 minutes unless you're doing a presentation that we've requested. Respect all others' opinions and viewpoints and address our board members respectfully. I did get an email from the commissioner. He said he's a maybe. Both the little ones are at home sick and he is in charge of taking care of them. So I'm sure that's going real well. And also, Elder Geist is at the dentist and is not sure he will make it on. All right. I'll remind you that this meeting is being recorded, as you saw, and all previous meetings can be seen on our YouTube page, NAACP-FTL-Broward.com. So people, they have been and they will continue to look and see what we have said and what we have agreed to and have not. So accountability is certainly the order of the day. I'd like to get an update. I know we don't have specific numbers. I did not speak to Dr. Awanza, but can you tell me if we're still having issues? I haven't seen a whole bunch of of reports about arrests from school base. You know, I've seen, of course, some fights, but not like, it doesn't seem to be in the media as much as it has been. So as it comes to school-based issues that require arrest, what are your thoughts?
So I haven't seen, obviously out of the ones that you, other than the ones that you just spoke about, I haven't seen many, for just, I'm going to say things that would really cause alarm. We did have an incident at one of the schools today that involved 2 students. Unfortunately, one of the students is in the hospital with a concussion, a fractured eye. That obviously it's going to have some law enforcement response because the child is severely injured. So other than those types of incidents, I haven't seen what I'm going to say is an uptick or an alarming rise, but we can certainly pull some data for the next meeting, Madam President, so that we can actually look at what the trends are and have a meaningful conversation based on some data. So we can certainly pull some data for the next meeting. So Mr. Watkins, you got that?
So I concur with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Weeks and Mr. James, what say you?
I concur with that information. We haven't seen a large number of school-based arrests recently. A lot of it has just been community-related incidents. So I concur with that information as well.
Okay. Thank you. State Attorney's Office, as far as kids you have diverted, those the public defender would not have seen. We're speaking strictly of school-based arrests.
I haven't seen any unusual numbers. Actually, even if we're to include written threats, I think John might agree. We're not even seeing as much as we were before Christmas or through Christmas. So, so far, so good. Fingers crossed that kids are calming down and getting back to their routines of socialization and all that.
Thank you. I'll take that every day. Back to Dr. Wanza and Mr. Watkins. I'm not sure if Mr. Watkins, if this is your wheelhouse, but the district voted to put in metal detectors maybe within the last month or so. I know it was doing randoms, but I think they wanted to make it more frequent and more widespread. Can you give us an update on where we are at with metal detectors at our schools?
Well, I'm going to defer that to Dr. Wanza. I think she has the most up-to-date information.
Okay. And Dr. Wanza looks like she's multitasking.
I'm coming back. 30 seconds.
Okay. You're on the clock, by the way. Okay. Let's go to, while she's doing that, seems like she's taking a call. Let's go to Colonel Holmes. You mentioned last time that you have cross-trained staff in place, that you are working to solidify your process for civil citation eligible children that had appeared at the Jack. Can you give us an update on where you are on that, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair, it appears to be working well as planned. We had a situation last week where we had a deputy that attempted to physically arrest a juvenile and take him down to Jack. And we actually had our personnel down at Jack step up and say, no, this one is entitled to a civil citation. So the plan that we put in place actually worked. It's a stopgap measure. We're addressing on the front end the deputy that was going to make the arrest. We're addressing that with the command to make sure we don't even have to get to the point where they're at the Jack. So the system that we have in place is working, and hopefully, like I said, once we address it on the front end, we don't even get to that point anymore.
I'm glad that that happened. But Judge Holmes, somebody owes us lunch. Who was it that we met over at the Jack facility? They said it would never happen. Somebody owes us lunch. I just want to say that. What's his name? You remember his name? You're muted.
I don't know, Cassandra, what was Evans, what was his name? Chief Evans? Look, I'll just have all of them take us to lunch, because they were nodding in agreement, acquiescing that it would never happen, and it happened. But you know, at least BSO stepped up to their end of the bargain to put a stopgap in there so that the child wouldn't. So just tell them we're coming back for our lunch, and we don't want Burger King or McDonald's.
And I don't want that. I don't want that detention center Kool-Aid, even though it looked good. I don't want any of that. But you know, that's fine.
I will pass that on.
Okay. And Major London, we may need to ask you this next month. Last month you had said Fort Lauderdale had agreed to the same process while you work on your MOU to getting the official agreement, but you thought that the previous chief would be in alignment with BSO. So is in the meantime, while we're waiting to see what leadership will do or who they will be, what should BSO do if in case there is a Fort Lauderdale officer who reaches the Jack with a civil citation eligible child?
They should contact the duty lieutenant. My position on where the department is, and we'll be going in the foreseeable future, is steady on course until the chief who's acting says to deviate. So we're going to take advantage of any opportunities we can give these kids until he says to do something differently. And I don't anticipate the acting chief to do that.
Okay, you have to say that, but I understand that. Okay. So will they do you does your staff colonel know how to reach the appropriate person at Fort Lauderdale should that happen?
I will check with that. I will make sure that they know how to make contact with them. If they're not aware right now, I will follow up on that, and I'll get word to them for sure.
Okay.
And then I can talk to Major London offline to make sure that we have the accurate contact information.
Okay, I appreciate that. And so Chief Evans you were not on the last time. You were vacationing or something along those lines. But we talked about an MOU for the Jack for those other departments other than Fort Lauderdale and BSO whose officers may arrive at the Jack with children who are civil citation eligible. And I think in conjunction with your office and the state attorney's office, they're gonna work on a written MOU. So in the future, if you had the signed document on available for each agency, then it would just be a matter of showing that those signatures to the officers. To play catch up. So I don't know if Ms. Michelle has had an opportunity to get with you on that, but that's kind of where we are And I assume that the state attorney is still on board. No, you were not here. If you said something, I didn't get you had to speak up. Nothing? Okay. You gotta get some equipment over there that works. Are you at your office? Gotta get some equipment over there that works. Well, if you will get with Miss Matella offline, and also with the colonel and possibly the major, then we can get that going. Thank you. All right.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, once we get that all squared away, I'll make sure that our staff down at the JAC has all the contact information for all the agencies that have signed the MOUs. So there won't be any delays in that.
Okay, that'd be appreciate. That would be huge. Y'all still owe me lunch, but that would be huge. But we thank you. And I see on the report there is, I believe we have more, or at least it's working so far at the clerk of the court's office for civil citation eligible cases. Miss Matella and Miss Gaynor.
In terms of us sending anything that might have come through, is that what you mean, Madam Chair?
Last month, I believe, and Miss Gaynor reported that there were some cases that had been caught, I believe, at the clerk's office and sent over to civil citation. Am I to assume that on the list of law enforcement agencies that have issued civil citation, and you please correct me, Ms. Gaynor, if I'm wrong, are those ones, so it says state attorney's office, are those the ones that were caught at the clerk's, or is that something different?
Oh, so I can't confirm whether they or not they were caught at the clerk's office. We get them from the state attorney that's stationed at the JAC. I believe those citations came from the Juvenile Assessment Center.
Right.
Ms. Matella?
Yeah, Mr. Alsbury actually does a search to find anything that we might be able to capture, and then he forwards them to Tamika and Leslie over at Civil Citation. So I believe last month for February, there were 4 cases that Mr. Alsbury referred to Civil Citation. There's been a total of 11, I think, since December or January, and we continue to do the same work.
But were those ones caught at the clerk's office?
Well, I think if they're caught through, I don't think anything has come through the clerk's office because he diverted it at the JAC, through the same computer system. I don't think we're missing anything there.
I think we talked about the stopgap at the clerk's office being if something reached her office before she would enter, then she would then contact Dennis or whoever it is at your office to make sure that it did not get her into the system.
We don't have an agreement yet with the clerk's office. We're still having to work on that. But again, if we catch it here at the filing, the case filer catches it or Mr. Alsbury catches it, we send it to civil citation. So it's going to civil citation in every opportunity before we even have to consider diversion. But we don't have a formal agreement on that gap yet with the clerk's office. That's something that we're still having to get back to the clerk's office on. But again, if it reaches our desk, we're going to catch it at our desk anyway before it ever has to get filed. It'll go to the civil citation program, or it would end up going to diversion anyway, because if they're eligible for civil citation, they're certainly eligible for diversion.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly what we were talking about. So we need to figure out what the process, you were going to get with their office and explain the process to them, because they didn't have probably staff that was going to do that. But
yeah, because I was concerned that might happen. I don't think it has happened is my point. And if it was to happen, we still have a catch, because we would see it here in the office before it ever gets filed, and it would still have an opportunity to go to civil citation.
But if you've already been processed and issued a diversion, they're already in the system. So
yeah, But that's happening that's happening before it ever gets to anybody.
That's why we wanted to stop.
Well, I
before it
know, but
gets to that point.
that's what Colonel Holmes is trying to do at the Jack. That's what we're trying to do. That's why Dennis tries to catch them at the Jack.
Yeah, but we're trying to catch them before it gets to Dennis, and that's what Brenda was supposed to be doing. And I was wondering if that, and I know that she doesn't have lawyers that with your skill set down there to know one for the other. Judge Holmes.
Yeah, that was a part of my question, because the entire discussion was to catch it before the clerk's office put a case number on it. So notwithstanding the fact that it comes across the state attorney's office desk, either in case filing or Dennis gets it, it still has a case number that Ms. Foreman reports through the Clerks Association. That's how they make their money. You know, how many cases we clocked and we filed. So even if you're diverting it out, that case number can still be tracked back to a child that has been, you know, it should have been a civil citation, never rode in a police car, or, you know, so we're back at square one if we can't get the clerk's office to, you know, get some kind of instruction. And that was my concern all along, because, you know, they don't have a lawyer looking at the documentation and says, oh, this should have been a civil citation. I'll put it on the side for the state attorney's office and we won't give it a case number. So if she puts a case number on that, the whole purpose of the work of the subcommittee and what we're doing here is lost. And it can't just, you know, well, we'll catch it. The case number is the catch. So if you catch it before she puts a case number on and then reports it as a case filed through her office with the Clerk's Office Association, because that's how they're getting their money, the number of cases filed. You know, it's all driven, it's money driven. So is there any way, and we've been talking about this for months, that can, you know, really be caught, because everything we did last year and in the early part of this year is lost if she puts a case number on the case.
Yeah, that we need to work on that. That was what we were supposed to have been doing, working on that for her space.
Madam Chair, I would suggest that NTAs are a bigger issue than what makes it to the clerk's office, because an NTA is issued in the field.
Blair, I'm not talking about a bigger issue. Every case where a child deserves a civil citation and not to have a record is an issue. And so we're just asking the state attorney's office the same thing we've been asking for a year, to do what you can for each one of the child, because it's not it may or may, we don't know, nobody's looked to see if there is a lot. Each child is important.
Most cases that are misdemeanors come through as NTAs. They really don't come through as arrests. So NTAs are a bigger issue, in my opinion, are a bigger issue in terms of once that NTA is
We're
issued,
worried about
you can't
all
really
of
turn
this,
that back.
NTAs.
I'm just telling you. Okay.
Okay. I'm telling you, we decided to take a holistic approach where everybody does what they can in order to make sure that we're giving every eligible child an opportunity to participate in civil citation and not have a case assigned to it. Yes, Ms. Brown, Yolanda Brown, please.
Oh, good afternoon, Madam Chair. I just wanted to respond to Ms. Manchella. Unless it's changed, the juvenile notices to appear are still being issued out of the Juvenile Assessment Center, the JAC. And that's something that I monitor behind the scenes and help with the scheduling. The only notices to appear that are being issued in the field are the sexting cases. So right now, the regular notices to appear are being issued out of the JAC, and I don't know and I don't think that's changed.
Well, let me clarify. I just mean that most, I would say 99% of these misdemeanors are issued NTAs, and that is what we're trying to capture. That's what Dennis Alsbury works on. In terms of the clerk's office, we are definitely going to try to form some kind of a policy, but I do not believe that you're going to find that there are very many, if any, missed opportunities that way. So I agree that we're want to capture every child in the community. I don't have any issue with that, but I do think that the NTAs and what goes on at the JAC is a big part of what we're doing, and it does not change the fact that we have had a fairly successful civil citation program in the last year, in my humble opinion.
The fairly successful is good, but the kids who did not get the opportunities are equally important. We just want all eligible kids, and we want to do everything we can to make sure at all points of entry to make sure that every eligible opportunity is given to those children. And so we're back to getting with the clerk's office to figure out a process so that we can make sure that that stopgap is covered as well. I do Major London. I did hear from somebody in administration that you all are going to reopen your jail. Oh, at least you were going to I don't know what you're doing now, but you were going to reopen your jail, and that there was a possibility that juveniles could be processed through your jail.
Yeah, what we're opening is the booking facility, and it's
Right.
based on a location where the officers will come and do their paperwork related to whatever arrest they're going to make. And then we have reserve officers, and we're hiring staff to do the transport, whether it be to the county jail or to Jack if it's an eligible arrest.
Right, but there was, and I'm not sure who's over there now. I think it was Captain Wheeler years ago when we had the program. There was a stopgap at your jail because if they've been booked and processed at your jail and just transported to the Jack, it's too late for them to do that space. So if you're going to be doing it if your jail is going to, or your booking facility, and you're going to be processing juveniles over there, then we have to renew that stopgap when it comes to juveniles.
No, that's already in place. I did that back when we first kicked this off. We've
I
had to
remember, but y'all closed.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you all closed and you did that before, but now that you're reopening in the process, you may have some new personnel who are not up on game when it comes to processing children there. And so
I will make sure that they're up on game, Madam President.
Okay, please, we need every opportunity. Thank you. Any questions from anyone regarding anything we talked about so far? All right. Have to the state attorney's office and Miss Gaynor, have you all had an opportunity to meet with those agencies regarding the exclusions of issuance of civil citations? Any update? Coral Springs, Plantation, Lighthouse Point.
There are no updates that I'm aware of regarding any changes to their internal policies.
Does the state attorney still plan to meet with those folks, Ms. Marcello?
Yes, we do. I spoke with State Attorney Harold Pryor and Chief Assistant Regina Falk, and we intend to circle back around with the agencies that did not sign off on the MOU and the civil citation.
These are the ones that had the exclusions that prevented civil citations.
I believe
within their policy, because they could have changed. I think they had agreed to tentatively look at it to at least consider, at least that's what they said. You all reported that they agreed to look at their SOP to see if they will be willing to make an adjustment.
Now, Ms. Gaynor and I have not circled back with those agencies on that, but Tamika, correct me if I'm wrong, with one of the agencies you have spoken with, we just have to set up a meeting, correct?
I attended a meeting last week with the I think Coral Springs Captain of Community Services, and he had spoken about setting up an additional meeting that hasn't occurred yet. But again, we spoke last week, and we don't have any updates regarding the changes that they were going to consider for their internal policies.
Okay, hopefully we can get going on that because they have numbers, Does the state attorney's office have a tentative date for the juvenile expungement workshop? I know last month you said you want to get past the adult one, and you were thinking maybe June or July for the juveniles.
So we did actually open up a table at the expungement workshop that we just had in March. Mr. Alsbury was at that expungement workshop. We processed about seven youth showed up. 5 or 6 of them had already expunged automatically. We were able to complete paperwork on another youth, and that we did. We piggybacked on that expungement workshop, sort of last minute. Going forward, the plan now is that we will continue to do the juvenile expungement workshop along with the adult expungement workshop, because then all of the resources are right there in one place. So Jamara Johnson and Mr. Alsbury and myself will be communicating on that next date so that we can have a more prepared, we'll be able to put the notice out to the providers and have a formal expungement workshop at the same time. They don't have a new date yet, Madam Chair, for the next expungement workshop, but I'm sure I'll be able to report that soon.
Were you all still sticking with June, July though?
I don't know. I have to get with Jamara Johnson because she'll be scheduling that and then we'll get with the providers. I would think we would do one sooner than later. That makes sense to me. But as soon as I know, I can certainly provide that. I just spoke with Mr. Alsbury today to see if we had a new date yet. We don't have one yet.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks.
Without speaking out of turn on this issue, we're trying to work with some collaboration issues. So a date that is proposed for future workshops is June 18th. I'm not sure if Ms. Michelle is aware of it as of yet because it's at its very preliminary stages. But that's the proposed date that should coincide with Juneteenth. And hopefully, once we get everything solidified, we'll be bringing all the other partners on board with it. But it's very preliminary right now.
Thank you. Mr. James, anything to add?
No, not on that issue, no, ma'am.
Okay, well, you seem restless. Was there something else you wanted to share?
No, no, ma'am. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. All right. Missed opportunities report. Ms. Gano, what you got for us?
Okay, I'll be able to provide the information from the screenshot we received, but I don't have any significant details, so I'll provide what we have. The missed opportunity report had a total of, I believe, 14. They had a total of 14. 8 of them were domestic violence, so they are not eligible for the county's program. Of the ones that were not domestic violence, there was 1 assault and battery, there was a trespassing, a petty larceny, 2 other assault and battery, and another assault and battery.
Okay. And so you said trespassing? Do you know what agency is that? Was that one of the agencies we talked about earlier?
I have the screenshot, so I'm not really able to tell you which agency that case came from. I'm not able to tell you what agency any of them came from.
Okay. Chief
But
Evans?
Okay.
Great.
I was going to tell you, I can tell you the totals that each law enforcement agency have, but I can't tell you exactly what they were. Coral Springs had 6, BSO had 3, Fort Lauderdale had 2, Davie had 1, Miramar had 1, and Sunrise also had 1.
And you were not able to give specifics?
I am not, but I've requested, I've put in a request to actually, we had talked about it previously, to get a data drop of all the missed opportunities starting back from 2018 with all of the columns that we require. So I don't have that yet, but I anticipate receiving it any day now.
Chief Evans, is there anything you could share with us? Or is your audio working now? Can't hear you. Cannot hear you, Chief. Okay, while we do that, John James, please. Go right ahead.
So to answer the question that you asked regarding the trespass, that was from Coral Springs. So I know that Ms. Gaynor referenced that there were 14 missed opportunities, 8 were for domestic violence and 6 were for non-domestic violence offenses. Of those 6, 5 of them were from Coral Springs. 1 was from the Fort Lauderdale Police Department. I will say this though, of those though, which was kind of interesting. The 3 fights, or 2 of the fights that were from Coral Springs were fights that took place back in October. The one fight that took place in Fort Lauderdale, which was a missed opportunity, that took place back in September. For some strange reason, those cases came through intake though in January. So that's the reason why it's reported as a missed opportunity now versus I guess then, because they were actually never really processed. They never really got arrested from the way that I'm reading it. But I will say that of the 6, 4, if I'm not mistaken, yes, 4 of them have been processed. They have case numbers. They're going through the court system now.
I can also speak to the details of those cases if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay, one of them was not reported on the report as domestic violence, but it in fact was a domestic violence case. Another one.
Give me the agencies, please.
Oh, my apologies. I don't have the agency in front of me. I'd have to look that up.
Which case was reported as a domestic violence? I mean, not reported as, but was a domestic violence.
You want the name?
No.
Can't give you the name, but I'll look it up in a minute. One of the other ones was that reported as assault and battery, involved 3 suspects on 1 victim. Another one that was an assault and battery also involved 4 suspects on 1 victim while he was at work at a grocery store. The petty theft was actually a co-defendant case. One of the co-defendants did receive a civil citation. That is a Coral Springs case. The co-defendant that did not receive a civil citation, the explanation was given in the supplemental police report by the law enforcement officer, and the officer reported that the youth was uncooperative, did not want to give their correct name, showed no remorse, therefore they were not issued a civil citation. And the trespass actually came from a burglary dwelling where the youth entered through the girlfriend's window. He had already been trespassed from that location. Yes.
No. Finish, Ms. Marcella, and then when you finish, then John James will go. Go right ahead.
The youth had already been trespassed from the residence by the parent, and he had entered into the residence and the parent was prosecuting. So that's why it looks like just a simple trespass, but it involved kind of a more complex history there between the family and the youth.
And I'll, before I get to James, so the kids show no remorse. Is that required to get a civil citation now?
You're supposed to be, I believe the form actually requires some type of admission. I don't know if you want to equate that to no remorse.
Well, that's not the same thing as remorse.
I don't disagree, Madam Chair. I'm saying, but I do think that what the officer was saying was that the youth was very uncooperative. So perhaps they weren't able to communicate that they were, there was a breakdown in communication, I guess, with law enforcement and the youth. And therefore they chose not to give him a civil citation.
Which agency? I'm sorry, which agency?
That one was Coral Springs.
That happens a lot in Coral Springs.
Well, the co-defendant did get was issued a civil citation in that instance.
Yeah, there was a lot of miscommunication in Coral Springs. Thank you, Mr. James.
I just wanted to, I guess, objectively disagree with the notion that it was a burglary for the trespass. I mean, burglary required for you to have an intent to commit offense therein. He was invited into that residence. I mean, that's why he was arrested for simply that of trespassing.
Agree. So, they thought they were
No.
Only reason,
hold on, let him finish.
The only reason why he didn't receive a civil citation, the youth didn't receive a civil citation, is because he he showed, I would say, because the youth showed attitude. And I think you have that same situation with the petty theft, is that whenever the youth shows a little defiant authority to law enforcement, they use the power for which they have, and they make the arrest. That's how I read it. That's how I'm going to interpret it, and that's how I'm going to speak it. So for me, I think this is totally different. It definitely wasn't a burglary.
Thank you. You were saying, Ms. Michelle?
Thank you. They thought they were responding to a burglary. I agree with counsel. It was not an actual burglary. It was a trespass. What I'm saying is that the history behind that is that the family had already had a trespass. He was barred from that property. So it wasn't just an attitude issue. It was the parent in that scenario did not want the youth at the property. So therefore they trespassed them. I think the story goes a little deeper is my point.
Okay, well that's a little different than how it was originally presented. So I thank you for the clarity. Mr. Weeks, is there a comment? You look a little restless.
No, this is exactly why we're trying to make a standardized, formalized process, so the emotions of individuals does not preclude someone from receiving opportunity. There's always, oftentimes, a story behind the story behind the story, but the professionals on the scene, i.e. the law enforcement officer, cannot get, involved in jacking up a kid because they were not, humble to them, or did not acquiesce to their authority in a proficient manner. That's where you're going to have that subjective nature of it. It's going to become too subjective, and then every officer is going to say, "Well, he looked at me side eye, so I arrested him. I didn't give a civil citation." That's not fair. That's why we formalize and standardize this process, so that those subjective things can be removed from it. When everyone can read between the lines what went down in this case, right? We don't got to get into details, but you heard enough about it, you can read between the lines. This is not an arrestable issue. This is some kind of other issue where mom probably didn't want folks to be visiting their daughters, and that should not result in an arrest. So I think these types of review are important, because that also gives Colonel Holmes and Major London some guidance for when they're at roll call, talking to the officers about using their discretion, using their judgment. Don't let the kid side eye make you want to put him in handcuffs. Get beyond the side eye and follow the process and give him the civil citation, and let the civil citation process, through the counselors, the therapists, and the mediators, work on the child's behavior. And it doesn't go unaddressed. It will be addressed, but shouldn't be addressed with the handcuffs on the scene because the officer felt offended because he got, a little attitude in response. That's my opinion, just hearing it and reading it through, but I appreciate both councils having the dialogue about it. And I think it's important for the community to hear the dialogue, because this is the nuance. There's nuance behind each one of these cases. It ain't just black and white. It's very, very subjective. We need to make sure it's standard so every child can benefit from it.
Let me ask, Colonel Holmes, does a child given side eye or two, does that give an out to the deputies at the Broward County Sheriff's Office, or do you require something better than that?
It shouldn't. One of the things that I found to be interesting was when you added in the dynamics of the parents, that kind of changes some things in the mindset of our law enforcement officers when we're out in a situation like this. I could tell you this, a lot of our officers think about liability. And if you have parents that are irate and are pushing the issue of having someone arrested because they don't want them to return to their child's room, then, from a law enforcement perspective, you have to be very careful and cautious on how you handle it, because if you make a mistake and allow them to pretty much walk away and they come back again and then something tragic happens, then it falls in our hands. However, on the other hand, because someone gives you mouth or looks at you sideways, that shouldn't give you the justification of saying, okay, well, you're going to jail, I'm putting handcuffs on you. We all are trained to withstand criticism. That comes with carrying the badge and carrying the gun. And a lot of that has to do with proper training. And some law enforcement officers are better trained than others. And that's where we have to continue to work and, make sure that our supervisors are on top of this too, because, situations like this can get out of hand pretty fast. But make a long story short, at the sheriff's office, because someone looks at us sideways should not justify us putting handcuffs on a kid.
Well, Major London, anything to add?
Well, we don't allow the officers to make that determination. That's why we escalated up to a duty lieutenant who's removed from the situation to give the permission to deviate from the mandatory issuing of the juvenile civil citation. Inside eyes is not one of the reasons that you cannot follow that policy.
Good to know. I think we had someone before the officer said because he didn't want to. I'm assuming that's not on y'all list either, just because he didn't want to. And that's another reason why, we need to really get back with the state attorney's office and the county, the Miss Gaynor need to get back with those agencies because, those are equally important. Colonel Holmes?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just to add to that, should you or anyone else as part of this board or are aware of a situation like that happening here at the Broward Sheriff's Office, please let me know right away, because we have been educating our deputies to please refrain from escalating situations and taking things into your own hand. And as Major London stated, that's why we have supervisors in place. If a deputy can't handle it, they will be dealt with accordingly. And we shouldn't be violating people's rights, and especially these young kids, because they're looking at you funny or have a smart comment to make.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? You also received the February 22nd juvenile civil citation report. You see the agencies. Of course, BSO has the most territory, so they would have the most at 54, with 10 just being in last month. You also, now this goes back to October 2021. You also know that Coconut Creek has 8. Now, Hallandale, it's hard to believe that there were no children in Hallandale that were qualified for civil citation. And so I believe they have a new chief now, or he's serving as interim. Have you all had an opportunity to reach out to Hallandale? And are they one of the signatories? I know they were trying to get it going with the chief situation. Where is Hallandale in this whole thing? Ms. Gaynor?
I will say I'm not sure if they're one of the signatories because that process is outside of our office and we do not have I don't have any documentation as to who are signatories. Okay. We have not met with Hallandale, but I will say they don't have any civil citations listed because they haven't issued any, but they're also not on the missed opportunity report.
Okay, that's something. Ms. Mattel, any update on Hallandale? Are they one of the signatories?
I forgive me, I do not have signatories listed in front of me. I would have to.
Thank you.
I have to go back and research that.
Okay.
I don't have an independent recollection of that.
Okay. I think, and is it possible, and I know you give it to us verbally, Miss Gaynor, is it possible to add a column for missed opportunities so we can have that to look at in this
I'm,
report? Is that possible?
okay, is it possible? Yes, but let me say this.
Mhm.
Because that missed opportunity data is completely outside of Broward County's scope, and the information that I provide to this board is basically regurgitating information that I've been provided by the Department of Juvenile Justice, I would be leery in doing so. Because when you get this report, this data has been not only validated within our office, but we have an independent department that validates our data monthly. So I would, it is possible, but I don't prefer that because I can't,
Do it separately then.
so let me ask you something. Is it possible that the information that Ms. Evans sent out to myself and the state attorney, the screenshots, to me, the department can put that in a report because it is their report. They can put that
So
on.
is there a reason that that your office that you're not comfortable with that? We just need a running total of the missed opportunities report. And so if you're saying your office, you're getting it from DJJ. So what they're giving you is what the facts. Those are they. Now they maybe you drill down and you look at and see the individual circumstances. But I really want to see a missed opportunities report with the running total, just like this, broken down by department. And I know that we talked about this last month. Also, the race and ethnicity of those children who are getting missed opportunities. I think we pretty much know based on last month's report what that's going to look like, but I think it helps to have a running total of that. You're getting them from Chief Evans, so you're just presenting the facts as presented.
I think that Chief Evans and I can talk offline because one of the challenges that we have is the way I receive the data. I'm not getting a running total. Sometimes I'm getting a Excel spreadsheet. Sometimes it's a screenshot. It's very difficult to put together a running total in a report when it's presented like that.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So I'll wait till Ms. Gaynor finishes, but I just want to let you know my audio is working.
Okay, so yes, and like I said previously, I have requested from their DJJ's research and I think data integrity office in Tallahassee a running report that gives me the data from 2018 to current. I think once I have that report, it may be easier to do a report such as this, but I would definitely like to speak with Ms. Evans offline because it is DJJ's data.
Can you give us what you've been given this year? Because I think you did verbally what you had there.
Yes, I was able to provide you all the information from October 1st, which begins the county's fiscal year.
Sure.
Yes, I would be able to give you that in a report. I would just need February.
Based on the information you were previously given.
Right.
Right. And so you would need what?
I would be able to give you that for that time period, up until probably I have to look and see the last month we received it in a Excel instead of a screenshot, but maybe through December or January. No, December, because the data I just presented to you was from January and that's the screenshot. So I don't have the data to be able to drill down, and I would be leery to give you this board a report that's not comprehensive and doesn't consistently provide the exact same information. So
I think what we're looking for is the number of missed opportunities in a format. So, and we'll just start with BSO. So BSO we know that since October 2021, they've issued 54 civil citations. We know that 10 of those were issued last month. What we don't know is the number of missed opportunities, and many of them we've gone through, and we do know that there were reasons for all of them, but we don't know how many there are for Broward Sheriff's Office. So the colonel will usually, you say you've got 3, he goes back to his folk, and probably within 72 hours he can give an explanation as to why those 3 were issued, and say definitively it was done because A, B, C, or D, and appropriate action had been taken if necessary. So we wanted to have that for each one of the departments, based on information that has been provided to you from DJJ.
Madam Chair, what I will say right now, I think that I would need to speak with Ms. Evans offline. We're more than willing to provide a report if that's the will of the board, but the data for that report has to come from DJJ, and it has to be consistent, and it has to be complete. So I think we can talk offline, and then
I'll just ask Ms. Evans, is there an issue now with getting missed opportunities from DJJ?
Madam Chair, thank you. Couple things. I want to make sure we're really clear on a couple things. There are many layers of data that is presented to various groups for the reason needed. So the report that is sent to the State Attorney Office of Justice Service, as well as to the Public Defender's Office, is the first time misdemeanor report that would have qualified for civil citation by virtue of the charge alone. I hear the term missed opportunity used interchangeably, and technically it's not, because as we know, the statute allows for multiple uses of civil citation, right? So the report that is sent currently, and it comes typically in a screenshot because it's use specific information, was as a result of the ad hoc committee wanting to try to interrupt those kids almost in real time. Like, okay, see if we can get ahead and maybe redirect or see what's going on. So that report is different than the department's missed opportunity report, which is much more extensive, which is produced by a research and data department. So 2 separate reports. And again, to Tamika's point, we can certainly speak offline to speak to what other data sets could be given. Those reports are not generated by me locally, so my distribution is then at the direction of the department's data package. What I will say, what you're asking for is the link that I provided for the entire state of Florida. You all can click on that link. It's non-youth specific. It gives you the entire state down to the arresting agency, youth, demographics, the charges, for almost about 8 or 9 different tabs worth of data that is captured for the last couple of years. So that information is there to kind of see, I guess, what our trend or trajectory would be. So I just want to let you know that that data is there. But to miss opportunities, Broward County for a total package for a year of time, again, that's a different data set that's been requested and it's in queue. I can honestly tell you, we won't get any data sets until the legislative session ends, because that's the priority of.
That's in a couple of days. Right.
Yeah.
2 days.
Right. Right. And then we'll see what happens after what they say. So, but I know they have some other standing projects, but I know that Dr. Sherry Jackson did respond to Tamika's request for that, and we put into queue and prioritize against the other states' other requests within the state. But what you're asking for, I'm actually looking at it, is currently available. BSO sits at the top just because of the volume. It does, as far as the number of cases eligible and what was used. And so you can see that we can sort all the way down to the county. So I see it's 404. I mean, if you wanted to, I could share it now to kind of show you all the navigation of it, or we can plan for that next month, whatever's the pleasure of you, Madam Chair, or the board and the board.
And so when we get the missed opportunities, we say to the colonel, you have 6 missed opportunities, and 4 of them were domestic violence. Will you review those and determine if that is indeed the case, or could it have been something else? He then does that within the agency each time we give him the report. And if it's a case where it wasn't domestic violence and it could have gone differently, we need to know that. Or if it was the kid had one and they don't know about the 3 opportunities, or if it's an agency that says I'm giving one no matter what. Those are the things that we need to know. What's happening here. So we just want to get an idea of where we are. If we're going to do just this fiscal year, that's fine to start with while we're waiting on the information on the back end.
It is if the reason was given, right? Domestic violence. If the reason was given, then we will have it as a department. I know Tamika and her shop send a letter when they get they do that. They facilitate that process and receive the feedback periodically. Your agency will copy me and ask a question. I think the last couple of times it's been Davy who I've communicated with, and maybe Miramar. But that information is present. But like I said, I hear your ask, and I will definitely connect with Tamika, and we will we'll try and see what we can do to give better data to the board for review and then proper handling. I can look up for like City of Fort Lauderdale Police Department.
Oh, you may.
I mean,
did you see the major? Look, yeah, look up Fort Lauderdale up and then see what they got going.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking at again, and everyone can certainly follow along with me on that link that's sitting on the department's website. I just went to the Civil Citation and Other Alternatives to Arrest dashboard. I selected the tab of Data Drill Down, and I just went to the County of Broward, and I just picked Fort Lauderdale as a police department, and it begins to
you should be able to share. I think you should be able to share now, Cassandra.
Say it again?
I think you should be able to share now.
Okay. So let me see if I can bring that up. Share screen. Here we go. And let me know when you all see it.
It's coming.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And so again, you can see where I am. And again, there are a lot of tabs out there. This is for the data set of January to December, so the calendar year of 2021. And here you can pick a specific circuit, or also here for county or law enforcement agents, you're able to select those that have given data. And then here you can see the alternatives to arrest issue. So of what was available, 62% of the majority was issued an alternative to arrest. And so that will include civil citation. Also keep in mind, just categorically, promise data sits in this category. Just keep that in mind. But the arresting agency would not be Fort Lauderdale, right? So while it's in the same bucket, it's still some differentiation in the data set. But then you scroll down and it gives you the snapshot of the youth, race, and ethnicity. We can see here civil citation issued, or if an arrest resulted based on race and then the ethnicity. We have our gender. You have if it was school related. Again, you all know we have that data field in our set. Then you have if in the data presented, if domestic violence was noted, and then you can see that as well. And then you have the age at the time of the offense, and then you can kind of follow it along. So this information is, again, I think what perhaps until we can get a more robust behind the scenes data set where we can drill down, see what responses may have been, this is sitting out here. And so just to keep Colonel Holmes on his toes, let's see what Broward County Sheriff's Office is doing. Well, look at him looking intently. All right, and so you have here 70% of the eligible youth were referred to an alternative to arrest was issued, 30%, and again, you have the same data, and that's on that same one, that's on that same tab, which is the data drill down. Again, you can explore other things, the offenses or dispositions, which is very helpful. Madam Chair, you asked this question, this data report was recently updated to what happened, right? So here is percentage of alternatives issued. These are the type of offenses that were committed by the the FCI, the classification, not the specific charge. And so those are there. You have the outcomes. You have some outcome eligible youth. If they got a diversion, non-file or it didn't move forward, or pending, which means the kid is probably on intake. So basically what it shows is for BSO, what happened to the charges, to those youth who were not given an alternative. You can kind of see what happened. And so typically, to I think the Public Defender's Week's point, you arrest a youth because of, say, attitude. Ultimately, it doesn't get past, it doesn't enter into the formal criminal justice system, because you see many of them stopping here at the diversion. But yet and still, to Judge Holmes's point, they have a court docket number, which now they're formally in our system. And so, and again, here's a different way of looking at our data set. So I encourage everyone, get out there and check it out. And then you can go back and you can look at months to see if maybe there were some trends going on. Again, you can sort down to our respective judicial circuit. It takes a minute to load, and then you can see the data here. And these are all, including all genders, all race, and ethnicity, all case types, and all agencies. You can see our numbers here. The issuance of alternatives, as well as the gray bar at the bottom, would be the arrest, right? And of course, the line at the top speaks to the percentage. So, and then I think Madam Chair, I shared this a while ago. And of course, then you have our percentage, pretty much a utilization of alternatives. It's what's there. And so this was recently updated. I want to say I sent this to Tamika in the civil citation team, because it had identified data. So it's just the State Attorney, Public Defender, and Office of Justice Services last week when I returned. So again, I can take this same data, and we always interested in the Coral Springs.
Yeah, that's
Let
true.
me click on Springs Springs. Yeah, there you go. That's Coral Springs. So, like in the month of August, all arrests for youth who may have been eligible.
Is there a way to tell what happened to their domestic violence cases?
I would have to.
And you drill down?
What I would do, I would have to drill down, but what I would have to do is follow a youth to see how the data captured it. But it may show it here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to sort that out. I'll have to, this is still BSO. I'll have to look to see if domestic violence pulls and runs separately.
Okay.
But it's out there. It's sitting out there. And again, it helps us look at all the entire state. So if you want to compare us to say like a Hillsborough, Duval, Orange.
Miami-Dade seems to be always do so much better than us. Let's see what Miami looks like.
Okay, you want to see what Miami-Dade is looking like?
Yeah.
Okay. Where am I? So let me take 17 off. Where am I? It doesn't.
It says
I
county.
needed to refresh. Here we go. I needed to refresh. 11. There you go. So these are kind of the agencies. And it's ranked here by, out of eligible youth is ranked this way. This is just another way of looking at it. So pretty high, 87, 91, 100%. Small numbers, but 100%. And then 0. This Miami Beach Police didn't have low utilization. North Miami, I don't know if that's spring break or, groups of kids out there on senior skip day. I'm not sure what's going on. Gordon, I need you to ride over there and check out what's going on in your neighborhood now, in your old area. Don't think I don't know.
Gordon, you had a question. I see your hand up.
My hands are full in Broward County. This is my home and my love. So we got enough work to do here. I appreciate that you're sharing this, Cassandra. DJJ, I am going to compliment them, has a very robust data collection, and they make most of it available on their website for not only us in the system, but for the general public to go sort through it. I like this data. I like that it's readily available. However, we still have to make sure that we're having made available to both the state attorney and the public defender those actual cases, so we can do the deep dive that both John James and Gloria Mashala do, looking at the probable cause affidavit, following the case of the process, following the case of the system, because it's those nuances that we need to capture in order to figure out how to avoid them occurring in the future. So I appreciate this data that is forward facing to the general public, but this data is from 2012. We're now in the first quarter of 2022, and we're 3 months behind. So we don't know what happened in January, February, and March, and we need to still get those cases quickly, consistently, so both sides can review them, have conversations about them, so we can find better ways to improve this process.
And the agencies, at one time, they were supposed to be sharing them with the law enforcement agencies as well. I'm sure that the colonel would love to have answers prior to coming to this board and ask them having to go back. And at one time, you all said you were doing that, but it seems when you said who you're sharing it with, you did not say the law enforcement agencies.
Not from, so two different, again, the missed opportunity report, which is a pretty extensive Excel spreadsheet that has traditionally gone to the Office of Justice Services as our civil citation coordinating entity. So this goes back, as you know, Madam Chair, years and years and years ago. So Gordon, I just want to let you know, this data set ends in 2021. But it goes back even further than that. So we're just looking at current, just last calendar year. I think you said 12. It may go back that far.
This is good information, but we need to know what's happening on a monthly basis. So I mean, we were told previously that the agencies were getting it themselves. So
They are. So that's what.
And they're getting missed opportunities on a monthly basis.
As regular as I have it to send to Tamika. So I'm not going to say it's monthly. It may be about every 6 weeks. Tamika, 6 to 8 weeks. It ought to. So but again, I don't produce that.
Miss Phillips.
Yes, I just wanted to also commend Colonel Holmes. You know, the rest of the agencies can take a page out his blueprint, because he mentioned something very key, that he's looking at it and they're doing their part, but also they're training their officers. I'm sure that a lot of that needs to be done, and there needs to be a will to do so. I'm very clear about that. But I think the more and more we show these numbers and we continue to do that, it's going to highlight those agencies that are just not getting aboard for whatever reason. So I do want to just put that out there, because that, as Judge Holmes said, by the time we have moved past to that point in that case numbers on there, we did that child a disservice. So we can't come and undo what's already been done.
Right, but we can find out who's doing it and ask those agencies to act upon them. I know that when we started with Fort Lauderdale, they had someone assigned to civil citation. So if an officer did fail to issue a civil citation to an eligible child, number one, they had a stopgap at the booking facility there, or jail. And then they had someone assigned to go and talk to that officer and explain to them the way what the policy said, and that, to avoid any further misunderstandings or disciplinary action, that they should move forward in getting that. I don't know what it looks like now is what it's going to look like, but we want to see that so we can stop it real time on that, please. Thank you. Ms. Gaynor.
Okay, so just a couple of things. What I was going to say is that this, the dashboard provides a lot of information. We've utilized this for a number of years, as long as I've been here, to look at the data. We also collect in-house to make sure that it is consistent. But one of the things that it doesn't do is it doesn't drill down into the missed opportunities. And to me, what this board is asking for is the details of the missed opportunities. And that's why it's so important that we receive the Excel spreadsheet that allows for us to do that. Another thing is when we actually receive that Excel spreadsheet, we can look at that data case by case, and we can make sure that there's no duplication in the data. Sometimes there is. We can also look at maybe someone is showing as 18 when they received the citation, and we can look at that case and say, was the youth 17 when they were issued the citation? It would make them eligible. If they were 18, it was not. So that's why it's so important to have that Excel data. And I think from before I got here with the county in 2015 and up until a few years ago, we always received that data. And another good thing about having that is that we can look at that data each time we received it. It's never been every month, because as Ms. Evans said, when she received it, she sent it to us. It's not consistently a month, but we can look at that data as a running total. And I can tell from that data whether or not something has been backdated and something from 3 months ago that we already reported on has changed because a case has been backdated. So that's one of the main reasons why it's so important for us to have that Excel sheet, to make sure that when we're sending it out to law enforcement, that we're giving them the best data we can, because as soon as that report come out, our phones start ringing. And unfortunately, it's gotten so bad that we've had to start telling them, okay, if you have an issue specifically with the data, you have to contact Ms. Evans, because I can't provide you any details because this is delinquency data. So I definitely think the dashboard is a great tool. We utilize it all the time to look at to compare it to our data. But the missed opportunity data that we seem to be focusing on in this meeting, it doesn't drill down to the level that you would want it to drill down. So my commitment to this board is I will take the data that we have, that I know that I have all the information from beginning October 1 until the most recent report that I have, and I will provide a report. But I have to have the same data consistently all the time, because that's the only way to properly track and trend data. It can't be parts of it sometime, and then other times it's other things. And then another thing, I received this information. Ms. Evans sent it out to everyone, and I do appreciate that, because now the state attorney and the public defender is receiving it. But when we get these screenshots, we will not send this out to law enforcement. The directive to the supervisor who's responsible for this is that when you get this screenshot, you look at the screenshot, you look up the information for the youth to see, make sure that they check and see if they were eligible for civil citation or not, meaning was it a first offense? We validate that, but we wait for the Excel, because I can't send a law enforcement agency a screenshot. They want their information, they want the details. So that's all one more thing. When we were receiving that report, we used to send out a one-pager report to every law enforcement agency annually. And what that report basically told them is that during this past fiscal year, even though I know it's after the fact, but we understand that missed opportunity is after the fact, because it's now it's coming from the delinquency side because they weren't issued a citation. Even though this is after the fact, I can tell you by month how many citations your agency issued. I can tell you what they were for. I tell you the breakdown, just like we do the report that we give you. It looks a little different, but it's very agency specific. And I give them the utilization rate according to what they're doing. So it compares how many citations overall should have come from your agency. And that includes missed opportunities that you didn't issue, and I compared it to what you did issue it, and then I give them their rate for your particular agency. Some of the agencies would utilize this to go to their board, because some of them, like Miramar, they did really well, so they want to brag about it. Other agencies, they take the information. I don't know necessarily what they do with it, but they had the information, and they had it in a one-pager. And when we're giving out these reports to me, it has to be a one-pager, but because people get lost in the details. It's too much information. So you just have to provide them what they need. And that's why it's so important that we have a consistent method of getting the data so that we can report it as accurately as we can, with the understanding that we're reporting DJJ's data and not our data.
Thank you, Ms. Gaynor. Well said. And so I think we have an understanding of where we want to go with this now. And hopefully you will get with Chief Evans offline and we can get some consistent data. But I know from what we've received, there are agencies who are consistently not giving civil citations to eligible children. From what I heard, the data we received previously, Coral Springs is one of those folks. And as an overall of the data we've received thus far, almost all of those children are Black, and particularly Black male, when it comes to missed opportunities with law enforcement. Those are the facts. So, we want to always be fact-based. And whenever it comes to civil citation or anything else, the police department is a top-down organization. So, we get the colonel, he gives the information, he makes sure that he lives up to his commitment to kind of do a mini audit of those civil citations on a monthly basis. If we can get this, we get the same commitment from Major London, assuming that he will be able to do that given whatever is happening in the administration. But he had previously, before the change, had agreed to do that. We just need that same cooperation from the other agencies as well. So we can make sure that all the children are treated fairly, justly, even the Black ones who live in Coral Springs and Coconut Creek. Judge Holmes, we were tracking some juvenile justice bills.
That's correct. What I'm going to do is do like just an update on where the ones that have been reported on are, and then I'll talk about the two that we have not discussed that we should discuss or maybe up for discussion. Mr. Weeks mentioned a bill, Senate Bill 802, and he was concerned about it. But Mr. Weeks, if you're a praying man, I suggest you pray. It has passed. It gives the Commissioner of Education the oversight for school security and enforcement. There are a number of things in that bill where they're going to set up drills, but it talks about family reunification. Does that mean they're going to separate the family and then reunify them at some point in time? So there's some language in there that is disturbing, and I surmise because of the vagueness, and if lawyers have to ask, it may wind up in court for a challenge. But most of that bill is going to survive, and the Commissioner of Education, whoever that person is going to have complete control over enforcement and security in schools. Matter of fact, they call it the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission bill. So that's where we are on that, and that's headed to the governor for his signature. And I have every reason to believe that he will sign that. I reported on House Bill 1459. It's a companion bill, Senate Bill 1510. That is stuck in committee. And it had all that good stuff about transporting children for Baker Act evaluations, not by uniformed police officers, not in marked patrol units. It had the department reporting about who they are using to do these evaluations of the children. It had a lot of stuff in it. It is stuck in the Children and Family and Seniors Committee. I have every reason to believe that it will expire upon the expiration of the legislative calendar, only because they're more concerned with getting the budget right. And it does have budget impact, requires spending money. So I don't believe that that's going to pass. And it's a shame. There is a bill that is on the governor's desk as we speak. I did get a text that it was transmitted to the mansion. It hasn't been signed, but that is House Bill 195, House Bill 195, that is for juveniles and the diversion. It used to be that you could only get expunged for misdemeanors. They have now included felonies that are not forcible felonies. So whatever they determine that definition to be, 776 Florida statute comes to mind for the list of what is forcible, but I'll let those of you who are defending and prosecuting to make that determination. Upon successful completion of a diversion program, it requires the state attorney's office to transmit to the, I think it's FDLE, it says to the department, so that the child has completed. And the wonderful thing about this bill, there's a provision in the bill that says, once that child's record has been expunged, it's as if it never happened. All right. There's a difference between sealing and expunging, and just the long and short of it. Sealing means it's closed off to everybody except the people who have been enumerated or listed that can see it, such as law enforcement, the Florida Bar, Department of Professional Regulation, any licensing. That's what sealing does. Expunging, on the other hand, destroys the entire record from everybody. Nobody gets to see that. And the person whose record, the child whose record has been expunged, doesn't even have to ask questions or answer questions, rather, that they've been through a diversion program. So this bill is pretty comprehensive. I hope and pray that the governor is distracted while he's signing it, so he's not reading it, and he will sign this bill, but it is in the hands of the governor. And then there is Senator Book's, Lauren Book's bill. It's called the Debt-Free Justice for Children Act. That's Senate Bill 428. It is also languishing in committee. It's in appropriations. It makes changes to Florida Statute 27, where it waives for children the public defender's fees. They don't have to pay that. They fill out the application, but it is waived. It waives all fines and court costs upon a finding of the court. It allows the judge to go back if a child has a driving on a suspended or revoked license or no valid license. It allows the court to go back and check to see, was the license suspended or not issued because of money? If so, the judge can remove that prohibition, that barrier, and wipe away. It's a very comprehensive bill. It covers not only Florida Statute 27, it covers Florida Statute 316, that's most of the traffic statutes. It covers Florida Statute 322. It's very comprehensive, but it's caught up in appropriations. So I'll just have to keep you all posted. I do get now alerts on my phone when there's been some action on these bills, but that's just these are the highlights. It's 43 pages. I have it here. If you need me to email or send it to you for your reading pleasure, I'll be more than happy to do that. Madam President, I have sent you both of those new bills that I'm discussing. So are there any questions of me? That's the long and short, because I took my 3 minutes.
Thank you, and we'll have Pamela Bridgeford will also provide a kind of, she's on watch on the daily, so she'll give an update as things unfold for the next few days. We certainly want to congratulate our board member, now the Senator, Reverend Dr. Rosalind Osgood. It's weird how this happens. If there is a special session, she may very well get sworn in officially, formally, just as we did for Darrell, for Representative Campbell. If there is a ceremony there, there'll be one here either way. But if there, as I said earlier, there is a showdown coming between the legislators and the governor regarding the congressional maps. He has threatened to veto the maps that they have, so there may very well be a special session, and she will be on alert to, and we'll certainly let folk know if the opportunity comes for her to be sworn in and have a formal ceremony in Tallahassee. But she won't have a chance to enjoy it. I think that was yesterday. As it stands, she still has to seek re-election. But as for now, she is the senator formally. Um, let's talk about COVID-19. Let's start with Juvenile Detention Center. Chief Evans.
Good afternoon again. Currently, the detention center is not under any form of quarantine, as my report earlier this morning was given to me. And there are
Okay.
currently 44 youth there, 4 female and 40 male.
Thank you. Colonel.
Yes, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go over the adult population first. Out of all our facilities, the adult population as of March 3rd was 3,509. We only had 1 positive inmate at the time and 1 unit that was in quarantine. As far as the juvenile facilities, we had a total of 10 juveniles that were incarcerated. 9 of them were males and 1 was female. The 9 males were at the Paul Ryan facility. The 1 female is at the North Broward Bureau, for a total of 10. All of the juveniles have mental health and behavioral services. 0 have tested positive for COVID. Masks are strictly enforced, and all the GED classes are still being conducted via Zoom at this time.
Thank you. I have a question for Dr. Wands, and I don't know if it's you or if it's Mr. Watkins. There has been, I spoke to, matter of fact, you and Judge Sora on yesterday. She has a contract with Broward Health to deliver service or educational pieces on COVID-19. And there is, she mentioned that there has been some additional data provided regarding pregnant women / teenagers. And I know that you have a population of children who attend school. Is there, how would we go about getting that information to those? Because the fact that you, if you don't have at least the educational pieces, the possibilities if you're not vaccinated, and there's a window of time that have been resulted in, I believe she said, the death of infant, and sometimes it endangers mom. So how do we, as an educational piece, how does a district get information there to those students who are with or at the school?
So, good afternoon again. So the first thing we would have to do, Veta Hudge is the current task assigned chief for student support initiatives and recovery. So when we're talking COVID-19, it would come under coordinated student health services. That's the first thing. And then they can review the materials to make sure, they're in compliance or whatever the standards are. But I would need to connect her with Veta Hudge. And if you can email me or text me, whichever is easiest for you.
It's easiest for me to have Jasmine reach out to you, and you can give the details and walk her through the process.
Okay, then you can have her contact me, and then between me and Mr. Watkins, we'll get her connected to where she needs to be.
Right. We just want to make sure that the educational piece is provided, if possible, to those students, because though she may be working, there are other agencies. Not all the children, not all the young people are connected to agencies. Sometimes prenatal care and those things are not exactly, in place. So if, because this endangers both the infant and the mom, we want to make sure that if it's possible to get the information to them. So yes, I will gladly do that.
Okay.
Thank you. I wanted to, I had just a couple of questions I want to just ask Ms. Gaynor real quick. When it says I'm looking at back to your monthly report, it gives an itemized list of the service provider referrals. Where it says pending, is that pending referral to the agencies, or that's pending that they've already been assigned, and they're still active and waiting for them to complete?
That is. No, pending, that means they've come to us and they haven't been referred yet, or they've been referred and there's a waiting list, or or they have been referred, we've assessed them, and basically there's a waiting list, or they haven't been sent to a provider. But if they haven't been sent to a provider, it's because there's a waiting list.
Okay, so are you currently accepting other providers, or do they still going through the process? I don't know what is the process now? Is that still they still go through the state attorney's office for approval prior to being authorized for a provider?
So the providers are contracted by the Children's Services Council.
Mm-hmm.
So those providers remain active. They are currently in the RFP process. I'll be honest and say that there's been some challenges with some of the providers maintaining staff. But what our office has done in the past and will continue to do is that when we assess a youth and they can't be referred immediately, or no one can accept them immediately, an appropriate service provider will say, okay, what we'll do is we'll provide them with their community service list and start giving them community service activities so they can start working on that, so that we can keep them engaged, but also so that we can make sure that they're starting community service, because that's usually the last thing that's pending for them to be discharged successfully.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to see Smith, assuming that they are providing mental health services, which I think that they have been successful with the district. I assume they're still connected, but I know they have. I know of some cases where they've done some good work with that as well. But that's interesting that it's 28. That's kids who are in waiting. So hopefully.
And also that could be what date is this report? Like the day of the report. If we were referred a youth and an appointment has been set with them, because we have a certain time frame where we have to assess them face to face, some of those youth could be in that period where they're waiting to be assessed.
Okay. All right. Any questions from anyone on the board? Any concerns? Okay. Any announcements? Okay. Hearing none. Yes, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, there we go. Just want to announce that the new secretary of the department will be in the South region next week, and he's asked that if our schedules will avail themselves for him to meet with a few of the stakeholders, judiciary, state attorney, public defender. He wants to visit a couple programs, so I just want to let you all know that I'll be reaching out to Gordon, to your office, Gloria, to your office, to schedule an appointment. And to Judge Robola, I'm going to reach out to Judge Williams to schedule an appointment. At this time, we are slated for our visit from him to take place on next week, Wednesday, the 16th. And so hopefully this is just one of many. He's kind of making his way through the state now that we're kind of coming through COVID. So just want to put that on your radar. And so you all will see a few follow-up emails for some dates, for some times next week. It'll be quick because he has a very long day, but certainly he wants to come to Broward County and put some faces with the names and establish some rapport.
Is he going to make Mr. Weeks take off his mask? Because we would need to know that. Okay.
I don't believe Gordon would do that, even if he was.
He would not, but I want to be there. If it's going to be asked, I would need to know that. Mr. Weeks, your hand is up.
Well, I will have my camera ready just in case. Maybe I'll put on video. Yes, but I don't believe so.
Madam Chair, I would suggest that just for Cassandra to the secretary, I would be more than happy to meet, and I would also invite other stakeholders to meet over at the detention center. I think that would be an appropriate place to meet, have a conversation, get to know each other. Let's meet in the detention center. He doesn't have to come to my office. I don't have to meet him in no nice, clean office. I like to meet in the detention center. That's a place that I like to be in.
Gotcha. So noted.
All right, that'd be interesting. All right, is there any other unread? Judge Rebolo.
Madam Chair, I'll second Public Defender Weeks's idea, and I'll meet him at the detention center, as will Judge Williams and Judge Ross and Judge Orlando.
And I'm sure Judge Holmes, if she's in here, we could make it interesting. Miss
Judge
Michella,
Holmes, you'll come along.
Miss Michella.
I'll leave that to y'all.
I am happy to meet there.
All righty, thank you so much. Okay, you got that down, Chief Evans. All right, thank you. Because he's not seen the facility yet, right? Since he's been appointed. We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure of the facilities he's visited thus far, but I'm not aware of any visits to the Broward Detention Center.
Okay.
Could
Maybe
you
we'll
ask him to get in the cell like I did to experience what the children are experiencing? Put him in the cell.
Yeah, unless it smells better, he ain't going in the cell now. Okay. Any other announcements? That was good. Thank you, Chief Evans. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.